Most indie artists think that listeners decide after they've heard a song. That's a reasonable assumption. If you put time into something, you expect someone to at least hear what you were trying to do. But the more that I paid attention to how people actually listen, the less that explanation holds up. The reaction comes fast, sometimes instantly. And once it starts, it's already pushing the rest of the experience in one direction or the other. You see it everywhere. Someone hits play. A few seconds go by. Nothing dramatic happens. No big judgment, just a quiet decision. Skip, next track, and the song never really gets a chance to make its case. There was a pattern I kept running into that finally made me pay attention. I'll be in the car with my wife Jennifer, and she'll put something on, usually on Pandora radio, so it's more or less random. And she'll listen for about 3 seconds, sometimes even less, and then she skips. What always struck me is that I couldn't even tell what the song was yet. No sense of groove, no harmonic context, barely a mood, and as a musician, 3 seconds just isn't enough time to comprehend anything meaningful about a piece of music, so whatever decision that she was making, it clearly wasn't about whether the song was good or bad. And I'll be honest, watching that is frustrating because if you've written, recorded, and released music, the obvious assumption is that a lot of your potential audience is doing the exact same thing. 3 seconds, gone. And if you stop there, it starts to feel like you're being forced into a choice, Make the thing that feels honest and accept that it might never survive first contact or start designing everything around clearing that initial hurdle. That framing really never sat right with me, partly because it feels cynical, but mostly because it just doesn't actually explain what's happening. People aren't rejecting the music that fast. There isn't enough information yet for that. Something else is already in motion before the song has revealed much of anything at all. So I stopped thinking about it as liking versus disliking music and started thinking about orientation. Before you form an opinion about anything like music or a voice or a situation, the brain just does this quick scan, and it's not for meaning, but for context. It's asking blunt questions very fast, like, what is this? And do I recognize the category? And does it feel intentional? Is there motion here, or am I going to be waiting? Is staying worth the attention? And that process is fast, and it just mostly happens below awareness. When Jennifer skips a song after a couple of seconds, she's not saying this song is bad. She's not even saying that I don't like this. I think what she's saying, and maybe without consciously knowing it, is this doesn't immediately feel like a place that I want to stay. And that's not impatience. It's not streaming culture melting anyone's brain. It's just how the brain handles incoming information, like triage, pattern matching, early filtering. Sound just happens to be especially good at triggering it because sound didn't evolve as entertainment. It actually evolved as information, like orientation and early warning. Your ears don't wait for meaning, they scan first, which means by the time that you think a listener is hearing your intro, their brain is already leaning either toward staying or toward leaving. Think about the last song that you skipped, not the genre, not whether it was good, but just the feeling in your body right before you hit next, Did it feel like you were waiting, or did it feel like it was already moving on without you? And that difference is the whole thing. The body commits before the brain decides anything. If there's something to lock onto, like a pulse, a contour, or any sense of forward motion, the attention stays online. And if there isn't, the attention loosens, quietly. You don't get angry, you don't critique, you move on. A lot of skipping looks exactly like that. Not rejection, not judgment, just disengagement when nothing signals, like this is going somewhere. Here's the part that took me longest to see. Whether you intend it or not, the first few seconds of a song are already communicating things, very specific things. And they're being evaluated automatically, before lyrics, before emotion, and before meaning. And it's not because listeners are judging, because actually they're trying to get oriented. You can think of it like a checklist running in the background. You don't hear the checklist, you feel the result. When a song starts and you immediately think, okay, I know what this is, that's not taste, that's category recognition. Your brain is saying, I know where I am and I don't have to work to figure this out. When that doesn't happen, when the beginning is ambiguous or misleading, you just feel slightly off balance. Not confused enough to think about it, just uneasy enough to loosen your grip. And that's the first gate. The second one is credibility. Like, does this sound intentional yet? Or does it feel like the song is still clearing its throat? And that can be arrangement, tone, maybe even mixing. It's not about polish, it's really about commitment. The third gate is motion. Is anything actually moving forward? Not excitement, not payoff, but just motion. If there's none, the body relaxes. And the last gate is cost. Is staying here going to require effort before I get something back? And if the answer feels like yes, then the brain doesn't argue, it just moves on. Not because the song failed, but because the early signals didn't justify the spend. And none of this asks whether the song is even good. None of it asks what you were trying to say. All of that comes much later, if the song actually gets there. And I think this is where a lot of people draw the wrong conclusion. They might hear all of this and think that it means choosing between honest art or viable music. And that's a false choice. What actually is being asked here isn't compromise, it's precision. Those first seconds aren't an artistic statement, they're an orientation window. You're telling the listener's nervous system where they are, what kind of space this is, and whether staying makes sense anyway. And when that's clear, attention relaxes. And once attention relaxes, the song doesn't have to fight anymore. That's been the biggest shift for me as a songwriter and as a producer. Not writing differently, not chasing anything, but just listening to beginnings for what they're doing before they say anything I care about. And it changes what you start noticing. You start noticing the beginnings the same way that you listen to silence, not for meaning, but for what they do to your body. And that's where engagement actually begins. I'm Kevin from Innovaniac Music, where we help indie artists produce great music and build their audience. Until the next video, dream big and create boldly.